Hello, Toastmasters. That's what this speech is today. Last week, I finished listening to this audiobook, The Happiness Advantage, written by Sean Achor. Scott's nodding his head because he's at least heard of it, probably read it, Scott. I knew, even before I finished this book, I had to tell all of you about it. It's amazing. But I wasn't sure if I'd ever find a project that would match up talking about this book. Fast forward to earlier this week when I was reading Project 3 in the Humorously Speaking Manual. One of the jokes they make reference to as an example was an exact joke that Sean Achor used in his audiobook. Bam! I knew this was the time. No time like the present. So I furiously scribbled everything down you needed to know about this book and was able to deliver a lovely 32-minute speech. Trimmed it way down, way down. Got to get all that fluff and filler out. Just get to the exact points you guys need to know everything about this book. 20 minutes. Fellow Toastmasters, I have an under 7-minute speech I can deliver about this book. It's good. Adam Toastmaster. In all seriousness, there is so much great things in this book, but unfortunately, I only have so much time. I'm going to talk about 3 things today. First of all, our conceptions for most of us on happiness and success are wrong. Secondly, our brains can change to become more happy. And third, there are some great tips in this book on how you can change your brain to be more happy. Sean talks about the fact that our feelings about happiness and success are completely incorrect. To understand what he means by that, we have to use an example from history just to put our minds in the right place. Thousands of years ago, everyone knew that the sun revolved around the earth. Then Copernicus came along and conclusively proved that the earth actually revolved around the sun. Now all of us know that. Well, most of us. My wife still believes the world revolves around her. Don't worry, I got her permission to use that joke. I'm being recorded after all. What Sean has found through lots of research of his own and also looking into other positive psychology studies is that happiness leads to success, not success leading to happiness. Think about, I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to acquire wealth. Or I'm going to be president of my Toastmasters club. Or I'm going to have lots of great friends and a wonderful wife. And then I'll be happy. The actual truth, as exasperating as it may sound, is that you have to be happy first because that gives you a leg up on success. Wonderful news for all of us who are predisposed to be happy. I'm looking at you, Kathy.
I love it.
But for those of us who may be more neutral or even pessimistic in nature, no names there, what do? It makes me think of Charles Schulz, you know, the writer of the Peanuts cartoons. He once said, "My life has no meaning, no aim, no purpose, no direction, yet I'm happy. I can't figure it out. What am I doing right?" The good news is, there's hope for all of us. You know that old adage, can't teach an old dog new tricks? Wrong. Just to cite one study he mentions in his book that I found fascinating. When electrodes were hooked up to the brain of a blind man, they tested his pointer finger that he used to read Braille. Now for most of us, when they test us and touch our pointer finger, a tiny little synapse fires, the sensory, we're touching something. But for him, even though he hadn't been born blind, when he touched something with just that finger, a huge section of his brain lit up, even if he wasn't reading Braille at that time. His brain had been trained that when that finger is touching something, I need to be comprehending the world. It was a totally new training for his brain. There's no way he knew he was going to be blind when he was born, because it had been an accident later in life that had caused it. In the same way, there are ways we can train our brain to be happy. And that's what most of this book is about. The 7 principles of the happiness advantage. I'm not going to tell you what they are today. I don't have time. What I am going to give you is some great tips that come out of those 7 principles of the happiness advantage. Little things some of you may recognize. Just being nice to others. Hold the door for someone. Pay the toll of someone behind you on the turnpike. Make coffee for your spouse or family, even if you're not going to have time to drink it that morning. The trick is to recognize at the time, I'm doing something nice. If you are conscious of that fact, it'll make you happier. Meditation. Meditation has been shown to increase happiness. And surprise, surprise, if we think of our job as a calling, as opposed to a job or a career, does that sound familiar to anybody? We can be happier. However, we don't have to leave the job we're in to reach that state. There are tricks to help us find ways to make any job that we're in feel like a calling. Want to learn more? I'd like to leave you with one last story about this book and Sean Acor. He speaks all over the world now about happiness and how to apply it to corporations. He went to one speaking engagement only to find out that nobody there spoke English. The translator, who normally helped out with those types of things, wasn't there that day, and the substitute quickly leaned into him and said, "I don't do languages so well." As Sean was going through his speech, he recognized that his translator was really struggling, and finally he switched it up and he said, "You know what? Just have them define happiness amongst themselves." The translator looked at him and said, "You don't know what happiness means?" Sean said, "No, but I want them to come up with their own definitions of happiness." The translator looked at him quizzically and finally said, "I can Google it for you." Fellow Toastmasters, Sean's point was that everyone's definition of happiness is different. Find your own happiness. This book can help you, and then it can help you apply that happiness and positive feelings to achieving your own success. Madam Toastmaster.